the opulent drawing room of Don Vittorio's villa overlooking the Mediterranean. Afternoon light streams through tall windows. Rosa is carefully arranging fresh flowers in a crystal vase. Elena dusts nearby, nervously. The room features expensive artwork, leather furniture, and marble floors. Rosa, arranging roses. Speaking to Elena in Sicilian dialect, Chistu rosisanu I kayu bedisiayu vistu. These roses are the most beautiful I've seen. Elena, whispering nervously, Rosa, you know he doesn't like it when we speak dialect. He wants proper Italian only. Rosa, continuing in Sicilian, with a slight smile, Ichimi nni fatu? And what do I care? My grandmother spoke this language. My mother spoke this language. It's in my blood. Elena, please, Rosa. I don't want trouble today. He has important guests coming. Julia enters briskly, carrying fresh linens. Julia, Elena's right. Don Vittorio has been in a foul mood all morning. The shipment from Naples was delayed. When he's stressed, he becomes particular. Rosa, particular? You mean impossible. Julia, sighing, I mean dangerous. Just keep your head down today, Rosa. I know you're proud of being Sicilian, but… Rosa. But what? Should I pretend to be something I'm not? Should I erase centuries of culture because one man demands it? Julia. I'm just saying, pick your battles. You've only been here 3 months. Sound of heavy footsteps and voices approaching. Elena, panicking, they're coming. Quick, look busy. Don Vittorio enters with Marco and Antonio. Don Vittorio is impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his presence commanding. Marco stands slightly behind, observant. Antonio appears nervous. Don Vittorio gesturing broadly, and this, Antonio, is where I conduct my more civilized business. Art, culture, refinement. Not everything must happen in dark warehouses. Antonio, laughing nervously, of course. Don Vittorio. Your taste is legendary. Don Vittorio notices the flower arrangement. Don Vittorio, the flowers. Who arranged these? Rosa, stepping forward, I did, signore. Don Vittorio, studying them critically, adequate. Though the symmetry is slightly off. To Marco, make a note. I want only the best for tomorrow's dinner. Marco, pulling out a small notebook, noted. The men begin discussing business in low tones. Rosa returns to her work, adjusting the flowers. Elena continues dusting, trying to be invisible. After a moment, Rosa accidentally knocks a small decorative object from a side table. Clatters on the marble floor but doesn't break. Rosa, in Sicilian, under her breath, minchia. Damn! She quickly bends to retrieve it. Don Vittorio, spinning around sharply, what did you say? Rosa, standing, holding the object, mi scusi, signore. It slipped from my hand. Don Vittorio. That's not what I asked. What did you say? What word did you use? The room goes silent. Elena freezes. Julia's face shows concern. Marco watches with interest. Rosa, meeting his gaze, era Siciliano, signore. It was Sicilian. Don Vittorio, his voice cold, Sicilian. A dialect. A corruption of proper Italian. Rosa. It's not a corruption, signore. It's… Don Vittorio, cutting her off, his voice rising, in this house. We speak proper Italian. Do you understand? Proper Italian. Not the rough peasant tongue of Sicily. Not Neapolitan. Not any regional dialect. Italian. The language of Dante, of culture, of civilization. He steps closer to Rosa. Don Vittorio. I pay you well. I provide you with employment. The least you can do is speak like an educated person. Do I make myself clear? Rosa, her jaw tightening, perfectly clear, signore. Don Vittorio, good. To Antonio, you see what I must deal with? Help these days is challenging. They come from the villages with their provincial ways. Antonio, uncomfortably, yes, well, times are changing. Don Vittorio, times may change, but standards should not. To Rosa, you may go. Send someone else to finish here. Rosa sets down the object. Carefully, her hands steady despite her anger. Rosa. As you wish, signore. She turns to leave, but pauses at the doorway. Rosa, in clear, deliberate Sicilian Piero, u Siciliano e la lingua di mi nana, e nutami la per rubber. But Sicilian is my grandmother's language, and no one can take it from me. She exits before Don Vittorio can respond. The room is tense. Don Vittorio, his face reddening Marco. Marco, yes. Don Vittorio? Don Vittorio, follow her. I want to know everything about this girl. Who she is, where she comes from, who her family is. Nobody defies me in my own home. Marco, of course. He exits. Julia, stepping forward carefully. Don Vittorio, if I may. Rosa is an excellent worker. Very thorough, very reliable. Perhaps this was just a momentary. Don Vittorio, waving dismissively, I don't care if she can walk on water. Julia. Defiance I do not tolerate. Not from anyone. The large, busy kitchen. Copper pots hang from the ceiling. Rosa sits at a wooden table, her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. Elena hovers nearby, worried. The cook, an older woman named Carmela, works at the stove. Elena. Rosa, what were you thinking? Do you know who he is? What he's capable of? Rosa. I know exactly who he is. A bully who uses his money and his connections to make people small. Carmela, not turning from her cooking, a bully with very dangerous friends. Cara. Rosa. Am I supposed to erase who I am because it offends him? My grandmother raised me. She taught me Sicilian before I even learned Italian. It's not just words, Elena. The stories, songs, prayers. It's her voice in my head when I'm lonely. Elena, sitting beside her, I understand. I really do. My family speaks Neapolitan. But here, in this house, we have to be practical. Carmela. The girl's not wrong, Elena. There's a difference between being practical and losing yourself entirely. Julia enters, looking stressed. Julia. Rosa. What possessed you? Rosa, he insulted my language. He called it a peasant tongue, a corruption. How am I supposed to respond to that? Julia. With silence. With a nod. With yes, signore, of course, signore. That's how you keep your job, your safety. Rosa, standing, and my dignity? What about that? Julia. Dignity doesn't pay rent. Rosa. Dignity doesn't feed your family. Rosa. My family would rather I be poor and proud than wealthy and ashamed. Marco enters, his presence commanding attention. Marco. Rosa Bellini? Rosa, turning to face him, yes. Marco. I need you to come with me. Don Vittorio wants to speak with you. Elena. Gasping no. Please, she didn't mean. Marco, holding up a hand, I'm not here to harm her. Just to escort her. Don Vittorio wishes to have a conversation. Rosa, lifting her chin, fine. Let's go. Julia. Rosa. Be careful. Choose your words carefully. Carmela? Or better yet, remember your grandmother's courage and choose them honestly. Rosa and Marco exit. Elena wrings her hands nervously. Elena. This is bad. This is very bad. Julia, sitting heavily, that girl has fire. The question is whether it will warm her or burn her. A dark wood-paneled study filled with books, a massive desk, and expensive liquor. Don Vittorio sits behind the desk. Antonio has left. Marco leads Rosa in and closes the door behind them, standing guard. Don Vittorio, not looking up from papers, sit. Rosa sits in the chair across from him. A long moment of silence. Don Vittorio, finally looking up, do you know how I built all this? This house, my businesses, my influence? Rosa, I can imagine. Don Vittorio, can you? I doubt it. I came from nothing. Less than nothing. My father was a fisherman who drank away every lira he earned. My mother cleaned houses just like you. He stands, walking to the window. Don Vittorio, I learned early that to survive in this world, you must become more than what you were born to be. You must educate yourself, refine yourself, remove every trace of poverty and struggle from your appearance, your speech, your manner. Rosa, or you could honor where you came from. Don Vittorio, turning sharply, honor? What honor is there in poverty? In struggling? I made myself into something respectable, something powerful, and part of that was leaving behind the dialect of my childhood, the rough manners, the provincial thinking. Rosa, that wasn't refinement, signore. That was erasure. Don Vittorio's eyes flash with anger, but also something else, perhaps recognition. Don Vittorio, you're either very brave or very foolish. Rosa, perhaps both. But I won't apologize for speaking my grandmother's language. Don Vittorio, your grandmother. Marco tells me she raised you in Palermo, that your parents died when you were young. Rosa, surprised but not showing it, you've been thorough. Don Vittorio, I'm always thorough. He also tells me you put yourself through school, that you speak 3 languages fluently, Sicilian, Italian, and English, that you work 2 jobs to send money home to your younger brother. Educated. He returns to his desk, which makes Don your Vittorio, defiance all the more puzzling. You know what I could do to you? Rosa, I know exactly what you could do, but you asked me why I spoke Sicilian, and I'll tell you. Because when my grandmother was dying, the last words she spoke to me were in Sicilian. She held my hand and said, Amicaca estie lingua, picciata. Non farici to nina la perdi. Keep this language alive, girl. Don't let your heritage die. Her voice strengthens. Rosa. She told me that our language carries the history of conquests and survivals. Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Normans, Spanish, they all tried to make us something else. But Sicilians survived. We survived. Not because we're peasants or uneducated, but because we're strong enough to know that keeping our identity doesn't make us less Italian. It makes us more. The room is silent. Marco shifts slightly, his expression thoughtful. Don Vittorio studies Rosa intently. Don Vittorio, you speak well. Rosa, I speak honestly. Don Vittorio, in my experience, honesty is a luxury most people can't afford. Rosa, then we live in different worlds, signore. Don Vittorio leans back in his chair. Don Vittorio, do you know what I hate most about your little speech? Rosa, no, signore. Don Vittorio, that it reminds me of someone I used to know. Someone I used to be, perhaps, before I learned that the world respects power more than authenticity. Rosa, the world respects many things, signore. Sometimes we just forget to notice. Don Vittorio, after a long pause, you may go. But Rosa Bellini, if you work in this house, you will follow my rules. In front of guests, in formal settings, you will speak proper Italian. Is that understood? Rosa. And in the kitchen? With the other staff? In my own thoughts? Don Vittorio, the ghost of a smile in the kitchen, you may speak however you damn well please. Even I cannot control every corner of this house. Rosa, standing, then we have an understanding, signore. Don Vittorio, don't mistake this for weakness, girl. I'm not a kind man. Rosa, I didn't expect kindness, signore. Only fairness. And perhaps, somewhere deep down, recognition of what we leave behind when we forget where we came from. She turns to leave. Don Vittorio, Rosa. Rosa, turning back, yes? Don Vittorio, your brother. Marco tells me he's studying engineering. If he needs a letter of recommendation for university, have him contact my office. Rosa's eyes widen slightly. Rosa, thank you, signore. That's very generous. Don Vittorio, it's not generosity. It's an investment. Sicilians should stick together, even when we pretend we're something else. He waves her away. Marco opens the door for Rosa. As she exits, Marco follows her out. Marco walks alongside Rosa down the elegant hallway. Marco, that was risky. Rosa, living is risky. Marco, a slight smile, you know. I'm from Catania myself, Eastern Sicily. Rosa, surprised you are? Marco, haven't spoken Sicilian in years. Don Vittorio's rules, you know. But I understood every word you said to him. Both times. Rosa. And? Marco. And I think you reminded him of something important. He came from Messina. Did you know that? His mother spoke only Sicilian. He learned Italian in school, taught himself to sound like a Roman. Rosa. Why are you telling me this? Marco, stopping, looking at her seriously because he's not the monster everyone thinks he is. He's just a man who climbed so high he forgot where the ground was. Sometimes people need to be reminded. He continues walking. Marco, but don't push your luck. Next time might not end so well. Rosa, there won't be a next time. I made my point. Marco, did you? Or did you just start something neither of you can finish? He leaves her at the kitchen door. The kitchen is busy with preparations for a large dinner party. Rosa, Elena, and Julia work on various tasks. Carmela oversees the cooking. Elena, I still can't believe you're still here. We all thought for sure you'd be fired. Or worse. Rosa, so did I, honestly. Julia, whatever you said to him worked. He hasn't mentioned the incident once. Though he's been watching you. Rosa, watching me? Carmela, like a hawk watches a rabbit. But not necessarily to hunt it. Marco enters. Marco. Rosa. Don Vittorio requests your presence in the drawing room. Everyone freezing. Rosa. Is something wrong? Marco. Not at all. He has a special request. Rosa follows Marco out. The others exchange worried glances. The room is being prepared for the dinner party. Don Vittorio stands by the window holding a piece of paper. Don Vittorio. Ah, Rosa. Come in. Rosa. You asked for me, signore? Don Vittorio. I did. Tonight I'm hosting some very important guests. Politicians, businessmen, people who think they're better than they are. He turns to face her. Don Vittorio. There's an old man coming. Salvatore Greco. He's from a small village near Palermo. Very traditional, very Sicilian. He's important to a business deal I'm working on. Rosa, I see. Don Vittorio. The problem is, he refuses to speak Italian. Only Sicilian. Claims his Italian isn't good enough for fancy company. I think he's just being stubborn. He hands her the paper.